is the last reading of the winter season of the Álamos History Association. And it has two parts. First part is a talk by Rafael Arenas Wong, who most of you probably know as Rafa, a man of many parts who will be talking about one of his most cherished parts, which is the natural world. And then we will have the annual assembly of the AHA, which will be short. We promise you that. And that will come over from Phoenix with our chairperson, David Warnest, and our program director, Errol Zimmerman. So, carry on.
Thank you. Well, thank you for coming. This is a continuation for my last year presentation. So I'm presenting the various chapters of this book, the Sonora Sketchbook. And last time I presented one about collecting reptiles, and this is about collecting birds. So the Sonora Sketchbook is a book by John Hilton that came out in 1947. And in this book, he writes stories about his visits to Sonora. And he was in Álamos quite a bit, so a lot of the stories are related to Álamos or around Álamos. And it has like 3 editions. And if you have the opportunity, read it. It's very nice. It's a really nice book. So Hilton was a man with many trades. He was a geologist, musician, entertainer, botanical, and a painter. And he became famous as a painter too. And he became very successful. And this is a photo of him giving a painting of him to the president Eisenhower. Yeah, at the Oval Office. So the story. So this presentation is going about how this story is made. So the story starts with this character, John Hilton, in a place in Arizona, in Salome, Arizona, close to Phoenix, kind of east from Phoenix, west from Phoenix. They were looking for some relics from this guy, Dick Wick Hall, which was also a cartoonist that became famous in the States. So they were looking because this guy also was a prospector, so they were looking at his collection of rock, and then they met this guy, William J. Schiffer, and they start talking about birds without knowing that Hilton didn't know that this guy was a specialist in birds. And then they start talking about Álamos. So Schiffer was a businessman, but his passion was birds and making a bird collection. So he sponsors trips. He will do it for himself, and he made a big collection of birds during all this time, and he made a great collection from Sonora. And he was more specialized in eggs, actually. He will eat, yeah.
What's he holding there?
I think it's a military macaw that is taking the skin out.
Oh.
So during the talk, they start talking about birds, and when I read this book, because I'm from here, I know, so all the images were more clear. So if you read this story, this will help you to read it more with a view of the thing they are describing, which is part of my goal. And so they start talking about this giant blue black bird with long tails, which is a black-throated magpie jay. And so I have this is the English name, the Spanish name or local name, and this is the scientific name. Okay. Bueno. And so then he described these little blue parakeets with blue rumps, and these were the pericos catarinos, or Mexican parrots, which you will see flying around town. And this is one of the smallest parakeets in America, in North America. He also is talking about an acrobatic koa bird that smoked from spiny branches like a trapeze artist. And he was referring to this bird, which is a trogon, an elegant trogon, or a local name koa, which is related to quetzals. Quetzals. Quetzales. So they were keep talking about, and then this guy finally, this guy told them he was expert, and he also had been in Mexico before collecting birds. So they decided to form a group and come down to Alamos and collect birds. And they were accomplished by other people, among them Ed Ainsworth, which was from a journalist from Los Angeles Times, and other journalists and geologists, photographers. So this is our image. So they, in the book, they talk about how they were crossing in Nogales, and they had to get all the permits for their guns, which was during a festivity in Nogales, and they couldn't. It took longer for them because everybody was partying in Nogales. So these photos are from Nogales. Unfortunately, for some reason, the projector is not putting the real colors in the photos.
Rafa, what year was that?
This is 1941. So during the first bird, Mexican bird they see is this, and they they call them like a carrion eagle, which is a crested caracara or a quelele. And you will see these birds. They eat, especially on the road. They like to they eat the kill road, lizards or everything. But they also can hunt. So then in Guaymas they finally see this flock of parrots, and these parrots were this white-fronted Amazon, which we also have here, and you will see the flocks flying around town. And Scheffler, who was the expert, thought he was fascinated because he found that this bird northern than he expected, because this is what's in Guaymas. Then they describe a very funny situation where they were in a village, outside of a village, and this ornithologist saw these woodpeckers. And he went out of the car, jumped, and get on the tree with a bag, with a cloth bag, and trapped the woodpecker. And everybody was looking amazed. I mean, between kids and other locals, like, what is this guy doing? And he referred, like, he can imagine these people saying this story through generation about this crazy guy jumping out of a car trying to catching birds. And the woodpecker is the most probably this is what the woodpecker he was capturing, the Gila woodpecker. Then they finally arrived to Alamos, but then they camped in the Cuchujaqui River. And during his camping, he started looking for birds too. And he went out in the night to shoot some. Uh, he called them whippoorwills, but it was most likely was this bird. It was a buff-colored nightjar, and they're nocturnal bird that eat insects. But he also, they were looking for this noise. They were trying to find this strange bird. They couldn't. So they finally saw it was a frog. So and this is kind of the noise that they were listening to that night. So it was a little frog, a little tree frog that was over there. Oops. Then they finally arrived to the place they were going. This is Rancho Huirocova, which is a community uh, and a ranch that was wait a second, where this ranch was very popular with collectors during between 1920 and 1950. So a lot of animals, a lot of reptiles, birds were collected around this town. And this is because over there was a family, the McCarthy family. The McCarthys were miners, and then they have this ranch there, and so they were the people. They stay at this ranch with the McCarthy. At Wirokova, Wirokova, it's kind of southeast from here. Is 45 kilometers, and this is Alamos, and here is the Rio Cuchujaki, the bridge. Alamos, the bridge. So you go still go south, and here is the end of the road where Rancho Wirocova is.
It's still there?
Yeah, it's a community. This is kind of a Google image. So now they're still there. Maybe the house from this family is not there, or there's probably a ruin, but it's still it's a little village. So in those times, it was probably more hard to get there. They will have to go by probably by horses.
Did he say what kind of car they were driving from California?
No, in this story they don't mention the car, but they were. But if you read the book, there's a story about the car and getting needed to have more tires because I think so. Scheffler, who is this guy, and this is McCarthy, the owner of the ranch, and this is Scheffler. So he collected over 200 skins in this area between 1930 and 40. And he also organized other trips to Mexico on or sponsor. They had a big trip to the Copper Canyon, and they went down and collect birds too. But that was later in the 50s. But they used the same route. So, they went to this place, Wirokova, and then they went up to the mountains and down to the Copper Canyon. But that's for another presentation. So here they have a military macaw in this cage. So one of the Scheffler, one of the aportaciones. Oh, I forgot that word. Well, to sign, he described one of the specimens he collected were described as in the signs. Like this is the type of military macaw. So they used one of the birds he collected to describe how it was. So when they arrived there, the next morning he went up and very excited to see the macaws. They were flying over the community. He also, this is, the holotype species is when you describe the species for science. So he captured that bird that used to describe the species in science, like in a journal publication. And this is one of the birds that he collected over in Sonora, the common black hawk. Well, in the book, then he mentioned that a lot of the kids came when they knew they were there. A lot of kids came to us what they were buying this time, because in the past they were going to collect reptiles, so they hired local kids to collect these reptiles. So they knew that these gringos will come and collect more, and they will get paid for this. So sure enough, next morning there was a line of kids asking what they were buying this time, and they accept the kids. So he described like by breakfast time they have this line of kids bringing nests, birds they were already captured. So this is are the illustrations in the book that shows a girl with a bird and a guy climbing into a tree. But one day, a 14-year-old came with an egg, and Scheffler was very excited about this egg, and but because it was a falcon or a hawk, and he didn't know what it was, and the kid explained that it was this bird they called them waco, and he asked for money, but he wanted more money because this is to get this egg was very difficult because he has to go under a cliff. So he was Scheffler got more excited when he found out there was this laughing falcon, and he said there were no eggs collected from this species, so there was no a collection in any museum. And so they decide to make like these special excursions to get these eggs from the cliff. So they hire more people. They took the kid down in a rope. But before that, the falcons were flying around and they shot two of the falcons. And well, there were no eggs in the nest, but there was a little nestling. So there was a little chicken there that he collected. So he was very happy and he tried to raise it, but he died. So this falcon is a very tropical falcon that goes all the way to Brazil. And kind of this is the northern distribution of this pretty falcon. Then he called about a man that used to collect honey, and he started bringing these birds. And one of the birds he brought it was these woodpeckers with big crests, which are these pale-billed woodpeckers. Very pretty birds, rare to find now because they, yes?
When you say collect, or when you say these boys brought the birds, or this honeyman brought the birds, how do you go about catching the birds?
They were killing the birds.
They were killing them.
Yeah.
And then bringing dead species.
They were bringing kill. There were some live and some kills.
And the little kids would kill them first before you bring them to
Yeah.
They shoot them?
They shoot them, rock, slingshot. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't describe how they were really killing them. Some were coming. Some were alive, some were dead.
Is this pale-billed woodpecker still around, or is that
Yeah.
extinct?
No, it's still around. It's hard to see it because he needs big trees, and there's not many big trees anymore.
Were they aware of the possibility?
No, this is in the 40s, and this is the way the science worked then. I mean, nowadays probably they wouldn't do that. They still collect, but it's not like it was in those times. Like, and was a race. This guy was kind of a maniac, I think, of trying to get the biggest collections he could, and and he had the money to do it. So the same man came later with these square cuckoos, which are really pretty, and they describe they have like this hair instead of feathers. It's another very tropical bird. And then he brought this, the mudmot, and he said the story about this mudmot is the male carved the tip of the tail to attract the female. So these are really pretty birds. You can find this still around. And then they call about Sheffer sleeping only 5 hours because he was processing these birds because they were dead and it was hit. Was in June, by the way, June, July. So it was very hot. So he had to, before the meat got spoiled, so he had to work. So he was mostly working because everybody was bringing so many birds that he was just kind of in the house trying to process the birds so they won't get spoiled. But then he got arsenic poison because back then arsenic was used in taxidermy. So their hands start swallowing and painting, which is this kind of some photos of how your hands, if you are arsenic poison, would look like. And they thought that it was maybe he got an infection because he was working with this dead animal and he was cutting himself with the scallops. And but now, so he decided to take him back to the United States to get treatment. So was kind of the end of the expedition. But in the way north, they call about stopping in a restaurant and eating quail. And this quail is kind of an extinct quail now. And they were trying to reintroduce it in Arizona, but they haven't been very successful. And this was one of the goals of Scheffler to find this quail. So they came into this restaurant and they offered quail to them. And when they asked to describe what kind of quail they were eating, and they decide, the person they called them, it was the banded sparrow, refers to the name. And then he thought maybe he make an assumption with the name because they called them the masked bobwhite. And sure enough, they went to the kitchen and found the heads of the quails he was looking for. But they didn't have time to look for more because he was already sick and they were traveling. And in the way back, they have live bird. So they have cages with egg, with live bird. They would have to feed in the road and all. It was a total trip. So the collection of these birds ended up in the Western Foundation of Vertebrate Zoology and the Zoology Museum in Louisiana State University. This guy donated his collection, and Scheffer is this one, the number 3. So one of the person that was in the trip was this guy that I mentioned. This is the editor, the editor of the Los Angeles Times. It's Ed Ainsworth. So he wrote several articles while he was here, and they were published in the Los Angeles Times. And he's telling the story about coming here. And this is a photo from Hilton, the painter, with a flower of a kapok flower. One of the other articles he published during this time was about this bat falcon. This one they also collect there. It's a very tiny falcon. This actually hasn't been seen again since then. But you can find it in Sinaloa. But there was 2 species that he collected, and the other one was, they call them solitary eagle. He collected that and never seen again since then. So in this, he describes things about that were happening during the trip, very similar what Wilson did also write in his book. He talks about the Cuchuhaki River. They say they found some probably new fishes that were not described by science, and they were captured those. They talk about the square cuckoos, other birds they've been seen, and also mentions how the hands of Scheffer were poisoned. Although he thinks they were poisoned by the bacteria of the carcasses. And that's it. Thank you. And this is kind of the phrase that John Hilton closed this story. I like going back time after time to Sonora. Each discovery leads to something else. the country is like that.
Have you seen most of these birds? Are they still around? Did you
Yeah,
ever count?
just the bad falcon I haven't seen.
Did he get treated for the arsenic poisoning?
That doesn't is mentioned in. I couldn't find that, but yes, he did. He kept doing this. The excursion to the Copper Canyon was 10 years after this. So
How do bird specialists operate now? How do they get the birds they want?
well, so now they only come. They capture them, but then sometimes they just take blood samples or a feather or two. I mean, there are still people collecting for collections, and they kill the birds. But mostly now they use blood because they do a lot of genetics now. So they use blood or feathers.
Photographs.
So the ones that are still collecting, is it because they know of a museum or a collector that's looking for it?
Yeah, sometimes it's like that. Yeah,
Or are there private collectors that don't show their collection?
we have. Yeah, it's another world of that of having people that collect stuff. They are really into that.
Have you ever seen any of those collections?
No, haven't. Yeah, no, collect and it's there's still people. I mean, nowadays, especially, is more under the law. Probably people still come here to collect reptiles. More than that, reptiles are people that collect reptiles are crazy. They really pay a lot of money and they don't care what you know. I have some friends working in this turtle in Vallarta, and it's a little turtle, and it's very endangered, and they just discovered that species like no long ago. So they have these surveys, and they put marks, and then some of these were stolen, these turtles, and then he found these turtles in a TikTok from China. He found the marks. He saw the marks and and they were like 500,000 pesos each. It's crazy, like how much people pay for
Alive or dead?
life. Because some people collected live. No, they want the live specimens.
Like for pets?
No, really for pets. It's just collection. Well, they are pets, I guess, but the thing is to have a collection. It's what they do.
Do you know, have any idea what, I don't know how to ask this, but new discoveries? I mean, there's things that we're still discovering about planet Earth, but are there still, do they surmise that there's species or birds that are out there that have not been seen or?
Yeah, probably. They just not long ago. I think a group went to Peru and they found all kind new birds, new reptiles, new plants because they went to these very, the places now are the people go. They have to be very high, or very difficult access that they couldn't access before. Well, thank you for.
Rafa.
So one more thing. Thank you to John because she helped me with some of finding these articles. John Paul.
Yay. Hello. I believe now we're starting our annual meeting. Thank you everybody for coming. It's really been another great year for the Álamos History Association, and we had a very good mix of movies, presentations, and field trips. I'd like to give special thanks out to Michael Lee for opening up her home to us. I also want to thank our good friend Mildred and her brother for helping us to plan and also guiding us on last week's field trip to Sabanito Sur. I especially want to give thanks out to Jim Swickert for making the hacienda available to us for all of these events. and also for teaching us about the Alamos Airport. Many thanks to all of our presenters, and especially to Umberto for all of his technical assistance. And the Álamos History Association, as you may or may not know, has plenty of other things going and many more people to thank. And this is kind of going to be covered in our following committee reports. We're broken up into a lot of committees that do a lot of things, and now you get to hear all about them. We're going to start with Barb Kiernan from the Internship Committee. Barb, anytime?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Sorry to be. It's always such a wonderful time to be in Alamos. And I want to thank our intern mentor this year, Donna McGee, who actually I'd like to do the presentation. I'd like her to come forward. And I want to just thank all of you for supporting the internship project. We have had a lot of feedback here. If everybody could mute themselves, that would be good. We've really continued our project, looking at Project Norbert, and Donna McGee has done a stellar job, not only in unearthing wonderful interviews, but also doing an absolutely masterful job of mentoring our university students and creating a wonderful association with ITESCA. So thank you very much, Donna. Donna, would you come to the podium now and tell us just very briefly, how was this year? What happened with ITESCA, etc.? Are you there? Hi.
Looks like I am. Thanks, Barbara. So I hope you know that Barbara initiated this mentorship program and the internship program. And it works that right now I'm working with one student from ITESCA, the local university. And last year she did 2 interviews for us with the live interview on video, and then the transcription in Spanish, and then the translation of the transcription. And what I didn't know at the time was that each transcription and translation takes about 16 hours. And so she went way over her 35 required hours. So I'm being more respectful of that this year. Luckily for us, she has agreed to do a second internship. And this year, we're focusing on businesses that were impacted during Norbert. And in some cases, their homes were impacted as well, but they lost everything in their business. So at the beginning of the season this year, Itza and I met with the director of ITESCA and presented her our evaluation of the project, and it was very well received. And we're very delighted with the support that we're getting from ITESCA. They seem to be open to almost anything, and I think it's a wonderful relationship between the History Association and that university. To bring you up to date, we have, the goal of this part of the project was to get oral interviews, oral histories from people that were impacted in each of the barrios along the arroyos. So that's about 20 interviews that we're looking for. And we have about 15 now. So the job is to find just the right person, or in some cases, 2 people from each barrio. In addition to Itza, I've been working with Karina Herpel. I don't know if you know her, but she's been in Mexico for 15 years full-time. She's an American gal from Texas and has a linguistics background, and so is very well suited to this kind of work. And she's masterful at helping people relax because she's a chatty gal. And so she gets the best out of people and is very empathetic to their situations as well. So the work we have to date is that Barbara did the first interview with the woman at the Palmeiras restaurant. And then Rafa has done one for us with the gal from Arenas. Itza has done 3. She's doing her 4th on Monday. And Karina has completed 6. Now, completed is the video, the transcription, and the translation. So that's a big chunk of work for each one. And she will continue that work throughout the summer. I won't be here, but we'll be in communication. And we're looking forward to Itza's transcriptions and translations, and looking forward to the completion in the fall of this part of the project. Thank you.
Okay, next up, is Trini there by any chance? At the Hacienda?
No.
Sounds like it. Our next report was going to be from Trini on the Indigenous Traditions Committee, but we're gonna move past that, and we're going to ask Ellen Ryan to step up and tell us a little bit about the Interviews Committee. Ellen, if you can come up, please.
Well, I have a very short report because I just did not get out to do interviews this year, but I have been transcribing the interviews and getting things on the computer when I finish. So I did finish Elena's interview about Pro Natura that was done in 2010, and I'm working on Rosa Emma Ruiz from 2010 as well. So I didn't get any new ones, trying to finish up what I already have. So that's it.
What are those interviews about?
Pro Natura it might still be. It's a group doing environmental work, and Rosa just was a local. So I think her daughter was here for a while with her, and she's no longer in Álamos. So just their life. People were interviewed about what they did, how they came here, their life, work, whatever topics. Mm-hmm. And again, it does take a long time to do this.
David, I would just like to comment and say that Ellen Ryan was really helpful as Donna began to work a year ago when I was there on all these interviews. She helped us really think about format, everything, lighting. She invited us into her home. We had a wonderful opportunity to talk about how to interview, how to film. So thank you, Ellen, very much for your help. It's really a nice stream of people who are there and who aren't there, who are working together to make continuity happen in this historical archiving endeavor. Thank you, Ellen.
This kind of works into a perfect segue into our next little report. We're going to have Joan Powell take things over for a bit. Joan is our treasurer, along being our chief librarian, and she keeps our library for us, as well as keeping track of our money. And so we'd like to hear from you, Joan.
Okay, Treasury first. We had 41 members pay their dues in a combination of dollars and pesos this year. Our income total was 11,900 pesos and $355. Our expenses this year are 1,700 pesos for the intern that's working with Donna, and 200 pesos that we really would have paid the previous year to Rafa for his assistance with that project at the beginning as well. Our balance now in our Wells Fargo bank account here is $2,727.59, and our petty cash, our pesos, is 13,800 pesos, some of which I'll turn into dollars and put into the bank account, because we don't need to be carrying around that many that many pesos. So that's the treasury account, unless there's questions.
Joan, I just wanted to mention that thank you to everybody who contributed to the annual campaign last year, because the money that you hear about going to the internship project to cover the stipend for them, all of this is coming out of donations that were made by individuals, not coming out of your dues. They're coming out of the generosity of people who are giving annually to make sure that the stuff is happening. So thank you to all of our donors. We really appreciate you. Hope you'll join us next year with the annual campaign as well. And that's the kind of way that your money's being used, is literally to support interns, to further connections with this, places in Alamos. And now, of course, being forwarded to think about the new book that is being done and Errol will tell you about that.
Yes, and I really should have broken down the income, but there was a donation of $100 for the intern, which Barbara knows about, and 1,000 pesos for the book project, and then there was another couple hundred pesos just as a donation. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. And I didn't get the library numbers pulled up in front of me right now, but we had a few new books added to the collection, and what I've been doing mostly in my time there is indexing and cataloging the newspaper articles that I had extracted over the past several years, U.S. newspapers that mentioned Alamos. So I've made some good progress on that, and a number of those. The catalog book that usually sits on the table unless somebody has a meeting and gets moved, but that catalog book will include references to newspaper articles which are in the binders on the shelves of the library. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Joan. And, I just wanted to also mention that I don't know if everybody knows, but we do keep a library in the back of Kathy's Corner. It is available as a reading library. It's not really a lending library, but if there is any kind of research people are doing on various things, Alamos, we've got a lot of materials there that's there for the public. And speaking of books and things for the public, we're going to next hear from Errol, who's head of our photo archive committee, he's on the programming committee. He's also the person working on his student history book. Errol, take it over.
Yeah, I'll slide the screen over a little, and I want to thank Joan for doing so much more than just the treasury and the library with her research on the history of Alamos and the ancestry work she did. We really appreciate it. I also want to make sure I thank Humberto. Anyway, Humberto has done so much for us. I'll start with our photo committee. I'll be brief. Our committee is not doing any specific project right now, but we are continually collecting pictures and making scans from the families of Alamos. And we're hoping that we can reach out and do more. I'm going to be working with the Boers. I'm already working with the Boers on this book, and I hope I can get some of their family pictures added. We do have some to our archives. What we do is we scan the pictures and we make a digital file and hopefully a high resolution scan. We also have a lot of files of the low resolution pictures that be posted often. Anyway, that's the committee. Umberto is on the committee, and Stephanie Meyer is a member of the committee. Okay, I'll go to the program second, and Barbara, David, Cam, and I, and that's our our immediate past president, Pamela Price. We're members of the program committee, and this year we have had 14 different programs, activities, and events. The movies have been very successful, and we're constantly searching for movies from the golden age of Mexican cinema that have also the English. We need an English subtitle movie because most of us aren't quite good enough in Spanish to be able to follow the regular movie. So we're constantly looking, and I want to thank Bob Feynman of Tucson, who is working with us on that, and we're all searching for movies. If you have any ideas, please communicate with me or David or someone so that we can research out on the movie. Now, the movies are one part. We had some short field trips this year. We hope to have some longer ones next year. David and I have been talking about that during his stay with us here in Phoenix. And we hope next year we can have a couple of longer trips than we have. The presentations have been wonderful. And I want to thank Donna, I want to thank Rafa, and everybody that's in the presentation for the History Association. And as David said, we really thank the Hacienda for giving us that facility for all of these presentations. I'll go to the book, and that's what's taken up so much time, and it's so rewarding. But the book is expanded because I'm doing a study guide for every section of the book. And Carol and I, of course, Carol was an elementary school teacher, so I've relied on her in putting together activities, crossword puzzles, word searches, question, short answer. And I'm getting close to being done, and we still have quite a bit left to do. But the book, I'm determined that it's going to be ready for September. I'm certain that we can get funding for it, even though we don't have that much yet, but I'm certain we can. And I'm just looking forward when we come to Álamos in April, and then when we come again in the summer, being able to close this out. The book itself doesn't have to go to the printer until July. So I've got 3 more months anyway to do the work that needs to be done. But it's after all of the copy is written, it has to go to the teachers, it has to go to Tony Estrada and other people to proof it out and correct it. So we're moving as fast as we can to get ready for that. It's going to be an exciting book, and I'm talking with the Scottsdale Sister Cities people here, and we're getting some support from them, and we're doing some hard work anyway on the book. So I think that's pretty well covered it. I won't talk about money at this point. I'm working with Isidro Almada there at Centro Gráfico, and we keep changing the specs, so I won't talk about specifics. But anyway, we're just moving along. I'll turn this back to David.
Okay, thank you, Errol. And folks, I think for all the behind the scenes things that Errol does, not to mention really nice to me while I'm kind of convalescing over here, he deserves yet another round of applause. We're just about wrapping up here. Another thing that we do, of course, is the Álamos Guidebook, which is available in a few different locations around Álamos that different tourists get to pick up and that sort of thing. And Ellen Price is the head of that committee. Can we get a few words from Ellen, a little report?
Well, we've, okay, can't find the report, but anyway, I know what it is anyway. We've sold 136 books so far, and we have 19,610 pesos, and we have 26 US dollars. Alfredo Ortiz continues to be our sales rep. I work with him to practice his English because he needs to do that, but he's got books for sale in a lot of different places in town, and he keeps finding new places to sell them, including up on the Mirador. There's a shop up there, and he knows the woman that has that shop. So we keep finding other new places where we can sell these books, and he's done a good job at doing that. Other than that, I think that does it.
List a few places where you can buy it.
Well, one of the places, Lorna Acosta just bought 10 copies of it for us for Kathy's Corner. So they're at La Purisma Cafe, they're at the Álamos Bonita Resort Hotel in town. Let me think, where else are they? No, they're not at Teresita's, but they are at the Maria Felix Museum. And if copies have been sold there, Alicia Sanchez has copies for when the tourists come into town. These are a few of the places. And it just was suggested that I have Alfredo bring some of them at the La Taverna Tavern. So I think that would be a good place for them too. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say that this is the second edition, which we're talking about. I
Yeah.
think we sold out.
We sold the first edition, yeah.
Which I think was 500 copies.
Right, we got 300 of these, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are 2 new chapters in the second edition. One of them's famous people and the other one's mining. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you all. And I had on my little agenda here that the Norbert Project Committee was going to report, but I believe Donna's already done that. Is that correct? In that case, I'm just going to end our little meeting here with a couple of quick remarks. Thank you everyone who's attended and been part of this History Association. This brings a close to yet another season. We're already looking forward to things next year. We do hope to do, as Errol hinted towards, a few more of our little village trips, because the one we took was very successful, and we hope to encourage to increase that. And also, we're hoping for one big trip. It might even be like a weekend trip. We might plan like going to El Fuerte is one of the things we thought of as kind of a history trip. So that's more about that as we start getting closer to next October. It's been a wonderful season, and at this time, I'm going to bring it to an end. Thank you, everybody.